Recently, my student Ansar got his first high-paying AI engineering role, and other students started asking me this question. Zen, what is the best project to work on to land an AI engineering job? Now, as someone who grew from junior to senior AI engineer, in this video I want to share the portfolio strategy for you so you can land your dream job. And I'll even share a real project that another student created to pivot out of a senior engineering position. Now, first, we have to talk about a surprising but important mindset shift. One of my students asked me that he was afraid about basic React chatbots and simple React agents being pretty saturated at this point. So he was asking me, look, how do I stand out when every bootcamp graduate seems to have one of these projects nowadays? You might be surprised by my answer, but I think that the whole problem is actually the mindset. This mindset that people describe their portfolio from a technology first approach. I created a rack project. I created a multi-agent project. Now, what if I told you that there is another way to show value and beat other candidates, even if you only have a simple rack project? You see, instead of thinking of your portfolio as a set of loosely connected pet projects, you should aim for a connected set of projects that are proven to solve real problems. Let me give you an example so this is very clear to you. Let's take the persona of a more experienced developer who has worked in the healthcare industry before. Now, this kind of developer understands the stakeholders that he worked with deeply and knows how to build software that gets used within hospitals. And then he starts to learn AI and wants to pivot into AI engineering. To show off his skills, he builds a vibe-coded AI market trading bot. Huh? That doesn't really make sense, right? This project has nothing to do with the developer's previous history and healthcare experience that made him valuable in the first place. It seems attractive to build a demonstration project like this because with AI coding, it feels like you can suddenly do anything. But in this case, he likely built a tool that doesn't really work the way it claims. It's probably really bad at day trading, and that will be obvious during any technical interview. Instead, this developer could build a HIPAA-compliant AI solution for something like patient note handling. And this solution does not have to be a super expensive multi-agent architecture. In fact, it shouldn't be because it just has to work and it needs to be proven to be useful, either because the project is open source and got traction, or because it was sold as a mini software as a service offer. But the complexity of the project has nothing to do with if a real hospital would ever use it. And this is the most important thing about your project. It should be usable in the real world. Now, you might be thinking, Zen, what about new grads? They don't have the luxury of being a subject matter expert like this yet. And I will admit, maybe that is true, but even new grads have problems that they run into themselves or hear about from others. For example, Ansar, the student I mentioned before, he built a tool during his studies to convert his lecture slides into embeddings so that he could learn faster. And this was a specialized tool that worked well in a context of his bachelor program. A portfolio project like that, with a crisp reason for existing, is much stronger than any vibe-coded tool to convert any lecture in the world, which is then not even used by yourself. Now, Ansar, he fixed an issue for himself, and that is what makes his project very valuable in any kind of interview. Now, before we get into the demo of a project example, I just want to give you a quick word on how people actually get to this point. So figuring out what kind of project works on your own, how to build it, etc. This takes a very long time and it's where most people get stuck. Now, I do want to mention that to get this structure path from where you are now to a high-paying AI engineering role is what I walk people through inside my program. It's how Ansar landed his first role, and it's, how Jason is also pivoting, whose project is what I'm going to show you right now. If you want the same structure to this kind of high-paid AI role, just check out the link in the description. But now I want to show you Jason's Codojo project first. A bit of background on this project: he built it because he is very experienced with Rails, yet he wants to learn Next.js since it shows up so often in AI projects. But when he was coding with Claude, he noticed that Claude tended to just do everything for him. This led him to not truly understand the Next.js concepts, which in turn would make it very difficult to pass any technical interview round. With Codojo, he aims to constrain Claude to act more like a teacher in his coding sessions. Because when you think about it, A teacher knows the answers to everything as well, but a teacher has the pedagogic skill to not just hand over the answers to you. Instead, teachers teach you the fundamentals so you can later figure it out for yourself. And Jason replicated this with a system built on hooks and other features of Claude Code, and he took the time to deeply understand how to integrate with coding agents. And he can now use that to his advantage because this open source repo is proof that what he has built, he has actually mastered, and he can explain everything that he did to get it working. So how does Codojo work? Well, with Codojo, I can initialize a new project, which will keep track of my learning progress. And now I can basically go into this project folder and I can start Claude Code with the prompt hello. And now what happens is because this folder has all these special hooks set up, you will actually see that it's going to read a couple of files, like my profile, my learning goals, which is all going to be empty, but this is also how it realizes that it needs to onboard me into Codojo. So you can see here, welcome to your Coding Mentor workspace. And I can just go ahead and answer what my name is. And so you can see here that automatically it actually puts me into this onboarding flow and I'm able to describe my learning goals and how I would like to learn. So you can see here it makes the best use out of Claude Code by, for example, asking me dynamic questions and asking me to, for example, paste or share my resume or my websites. Now, in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go and say that I want to share a website. And now I'll share the website of my program just so it can understand what I'm working on currently. And now you can see that it says, hey, you're an AI engineer, you were previously senior at GitHub, and now you're a member of technical staff at an AI safety research lab. Absolutely correct. And so now Codojo is actually starting to learn a little bit about me, and it will save all of that information in a structured folder, which will obviously be referenced whenever I'm learning something new with Codojo. And now as it learns about me, it asks what success looks like for you. So every time that you interact with Codojo, it will keep that end goal in mind. He is using some prompt engineering techniques to inject some initialized prompts, but it's also a matter of setting up his folder structure properly so it's easy for Claude to explore. Plus, he's using hook systems to deterministically save information about your Claude Code sessions into the project folder. It is absolutely an excellent example of an AI engineering project. So when we step back out of the demo, the principle under all of this is rather simple. Whether you are a new grad or an experienced engineer, you should stop focusing on AI gimmicks and prove that what you are building solves a real problem. Whether you use RAG, React, or any new hyped pattern like the recent loop engineering stuff, really doesn't matter. Don't fixate on outcompeting everyone by being fancy with technology. You do not need to build a multi-tier agentic app. I got the senior engineer at GitHub, mainly leveraging RAG as the baseline pattern for the problem that I was solving there. What you need is a project that does more than just sit on a GitHub page. You need a project with a real reason for existing, either based on your previous experience as a subject matter expert or on the problem that you face yourself if you are a new grad. And just to remind you, if you have prior experience, build a system that uses it. If you worked at healthcare before, then you can build that HIPAA-compliant project instead of some kind of vibe-coded monster app that no real hospital would ever adopt. If you are a new grad, take a problem that you face yourself and solve it in an AI native way, the way Ansar did with his lecture slides. And yes, maybe someone out there has built a fancier solution than you, but they will lose against you in the interview because they will not be able to explain why they built it, what problem it solves, or prove that it solved the problem for someone else. There are so many AI vibe coded repos on GitHub that actually don't do anything in the real world. But solving a real problem is what gives Jason and Ansar their edge in interviews, and not the fact that their solution is more complex. Let me put it straight to you. If I interview you and you come to me with an innovative multi-agent solution leveraging a graph database with 100 recursive tool calls, and the end result is that your app is just responsible for summarizing emails, that will lead to an immediate rejection from me because you don't understand when solutions even need to be complex. But if you come to me with a project that has proven value that you can explain end to end, even if it's only RAG based, you stand out and you have a likely chance of moving to the next round. If you want to build a portfolio like the one I described, where every project has a real reason to exist and proof that it worked, well, That is a whole point of my AI native engineer program. I give you the structured path from where you are now to a high paid AI engineering role. So if you're interested in that, check the link in the description down below, and I'll see you there.